Today, me and my sister are going to have a discussion about the death of Aeris in Final Fantasy VII and Sue leaving Grandia.
Well, the difference between Sue leaving and Aeris or Aerith was the character development in both of the games. I didn't really care. Like, I heard a lot of people say I cried when Aeris died. I didn't cry. I was just like, oh, he killed her. Because I didn't really know too much about her character other than a few little snippets here and there in the game. I remember, I think she was like a descendant of an ancient. Her dad was like some scientist or something. And her mom was an ancient or the last ancient or something. And I think she was kind of a quiet character, but that's kind of it. I didn't really know her personality or anything like that. So, anyway, when Sue left in the game, there was more character development in Grandia. You cared about the characters. It didn't just give a backstory to the characters. It showed off their personalities and.
You actually felt like you were a part of the character development too. I remember, when you would save the game, it would be at the campfire.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is right. And they would have those talks. You would click on the characters, and they would talk about whatever point in the game you were. They would talk about it. But not just talk about it. They talk about it in their own way, in their own personalities.
And the characters also had voices. And I know a lot of people knock the voice acting. I think the voice acting is very well suited.
I thought it was
Grandia.
decent. It wasn't, to me, like an example of bad video game voice acting is Final Fantasy X. Now that was horrible.
Horrid.
Like I couldn't really finish that game because the voice acting was bad. Especially, I remember the worst ones was Kimari, or however, how you say his name. I remember he was one of the worst.
I hated Waka.
Waka? I can't remember his voice. Wasn't it some sort of Jamaican thing?
It was a wannabe offshoot to some Jamaican patois. It was horrible. And then, of course, Titus voice acting.
Yeah, his voice was really whiny. It was really annoying.
But in Final Fantasy VII, now, I understand that they didn't have voice acting, I guess because of budget or whatever. It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter.
Because there's a lot of text in Grandia just as much as there's voice acting. But when it got to the time where Aeris died, I wasn't sad or depressed when she died. I remember being a little bit shocked, but I was more pissed. I mean, the first thing that came to my mind was I just leveled this chick up and I gave her some material that I actually spent time trying to get or find or whatever, spent time trying to level up her limit breaks and whatnot, and all that's done for and wasted. I mean, that is the only thing the main things that were going through my mind. Whereas when Sue left, I mean, I did give her a mana egg, I think, before that, which kind of pissed me off because I was like, I could have used that on Justin or somebody. But it actually felt, you actually felt some remorse, or you actually felt sad because if for people out there who've completed the game, you know that Justin was not going to see her for a very long time. I mean, keep in mind, this is a journey. I mean, they went to the edge of what, to them, the known world and beyond it. So he was not going to see his little cousin for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, it was at the end of the game, like, because I know in the game while you're playing it, Sue was like 8, 9 years old, and Justin was like 14. At the end of the game, when Justin finally comes back with Fina and his little kids in tow, Sue is 16, and no telling how old Justin is. He's probably in his 20s then, so it's a pretty good while since years that he's seen Sue. But it mattered when Sue left, like I said, was because you grew attached to her character. You knew how Sue was and how her and Justin, how both of them were close. I mean, she stowed away I remember in the beginning of the game, when Justin finally leaves, she stowed away on the ship he left on because she wanted to follow him. She wanted to go with him. And then even at the end, when she couldn't go on, it was sad she couldn't go on because she was too young and she was too weak to go on. I remember, I believe she had gotten sick or something, and she had to go back because she couldn't go further on the journey because she was too young.
Which is, I mean, and that's completely, it's way different than in Final Fantasy VII. You really don't know anything about Aeris.
Well, Final Fantasy VII, and this is just me, but I felt like it relied more on the overall story versus the characters. Because honestly, with the main character Cloud, you could just put Tifa there and tell it from her point of view, like what happened in the story. It really wouldn't make a big difference to me on caring about the character more. You didn't really get to really know the characters on that personal front like you did with Grandia. Other than like a few backstory, but then the backstories had to do with the overall story of what happened with Sephiroth. Because I remember when they showed the backstory of Cloud and how he had his own perspective of when he was in Soldier, it had to do with the overall story. Like, because Sephiroth was also in Soldier, or no, it was that other guy. The other guy who he jacked his personality from. I forgot his name. Yeah. And I think Tifa, that she liked him or something. I can't remember. But it had to do with the overall story and just not with his personality. And I know with Justin, you found out more about Justin that had nothing to do with his...
with the overall story,
with his journey, because you find out about his mom and how she was a pirate, and his dad was an adventurer, and how his parents met. That doesn't really have anything to do with him on his journey to Alent, but it does make the characters be more 3-dimensional, giving those sorts of backstories to them that makes them more alive. But, I did enjoy playing Final Fantasy VII. I just didn't bawl my eyes out when Aeris died, and I didn't think it was... No, I don't think it was as dramatic when Sue died because of...
You mean Aeris?
Yeah, Aeris... Well, whatever. I don't think it was as dramatic when Sue died because... the character development and how I didn't really care about her character. I didn't really care about any of the Final Fantasy VII characters. I was more invested into the story, whereas with Grandia, I was invested in the story and in the characters.